Yeah, man, it's good to be here. I just got done streaming my own show, and I just hopped off and hopped right back on, and I'm glad to be here.
Hey, maybe I should try this again with microphone turned on. What do you think?
Did not pick that up?
No, I didn't.
Was they heard the first word from me?
They did hear the first word from you.
Why don't you? Yeah, let's try that again.
Well, welcome back in, of course, to Ed's World. My name is Jay Edgar, and it's always morning here, even in the afternoon. I'm here with my guest, Stephen Ignoramus, who just legitimately got done doing his own live stream, but was kind enough to come by and help us out with a little bit of saving my ass, because a guest that wasn't quite prepared to be a guest was supposed to be sitting on the other side of that screen, but we'll talk a bit more about that in just a bit here. But I know most of the audience here has probably already seen what you were doing, because they just came over from your show, but what did you have going on today? How was your show?
It was good, man. I mean, we started about 2.5 hours ago, and it was my first time doing an entire 2.5 hour show on the coronavirus. I plan to do some other stuff, like there was the Democratic debate last night between Bernie and Joe, and I was gonna do some of that, but we just had so many articles and angles to cover on the coronavirus, so we just did it the whole time. And crazy times we live in, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It is nuts just to see everything we've had going on here with that too. The fact that I've done whole episodes of Contemporary just talking about that and nothing else. Mm-hmm. It is craziness indeed, and there's so much tinfoil that goes around, and scarily enough, I believe some of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I totally embraced the conspiracy angle on this one, and unlike a lot of conspiracies, I mean, maybe not a lot, but a lot of conspiracies will have like 2 or 3 angles. Mm-hmm. That, it's like Lee Harvey didn't act alone. It was the commies, blah, blah, blah. There's like 3 or 4 angles. There's maybe more on something like 9/11. But with this one, it just seems like there's 15 or 20 different takes on it. And, it's... and one thing I like about it is that people, your average person doesn't trust the government and doesn't trust the media. And that's the way I like it. Except for me. You should trust me because I'm in media. Yeah. And
yeah.
Jagger.
Well, and that's exactly what I've been seeing, too, out of it on Twitter, too. It's like, okay, well, everyone wants you to just accept and agree with what MSNBC and CNN say, and the world will fall into panic if they're not allowed to tell you who to be afraid of and what to be afraid of.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But I'm just glad that it just seems like more so than 10 years ago. This might be because of Trump or because of the whole Orange Man, the saga of the Orange Man. And also we might be in a little bit of, a so-called echo chamber or whatever. Like we kind of lean right, and most people that lean right, that chill in live chats and watch live streams, we're just up to here with mistrust, Mm-hmm. So it's kind of good, but also it doesn't make it any easier,
Oh, I was just about ready to nuke my channel Friday night because I was so sick of the fucking fear porn.
Yeah. So you just make fun of it. That's another thing that's a big thing about my show is we pull no punches. We spare 0 groups, 0 politicians, even ones we like, even ones we hate. We just go hard on the comedy after all of them. That's how I'm going to keep it for the time being.
Well, we do have a full show to go over here today, and I mean, it's only 4 topics. I usually do 5, but I mean, this is going to be some real big stuff here. We will talk the coronavirus and what it did with the stocks and what it did with the toilet paper. We'll talk a bit about that and the closures as well. 2020 is here, and we are coming closer and closer to November every week. So we'll talk a bit about what happened there. We'll talk some of the Sunday's debate. We'll talk a little bit about the past Super Tuesday and the one that's coming up, some endorsements that showed up, and I will ask you the 3 questions, which may be a lot easier now that we only have 3 candidates.
Is the question fuck, marry, kill?
No, but we could do that one too.
Oh, I'm down. Okay. Yeah, we got to do Biden, Bernie, and one of the moderators. We can't do Tulsi Gabbard because that would be a little too easy. Maybe. I'm not sure. There's been some rumors there too. But yeah, you can just run your show. I'll stop talking.
Russia and Saudi Arabia have started an oil war, and almost nobody's reporting on it. So we'll talk a bit about what happened there. I've got some stuff to talk about that came up from the Monday before, so we'll see what's going on with that, of course. And Ilhan Omar has remarried. It's been a surprise, but there may be some ulterior motives to that. So we'll get into a little bit of what's going on there. It's going to be all of this and more over on Ed's World. Thanks for checking us out live on YouTube, DLive, Twitch, Periscope for Twitter, and we are back on Facebook. Fuck you, Mark Zuckerberg. We are back. And if you can't catch us live, you can catch us back on demand. The replay will be available on YouTube, on Twitter, and on Facebook, or you can catch us on BitChute.com or over on the audio platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. Hey, remember, if you're over on iTunes, leave us that 5-star rating and a good review. That helps us overcome the Apple algorithms, which are not going to be favorable to us no matter what, and it helps us move up the charts. So go and check us out over there. Ed's World is proudly partnered with the Freedom Scoop Media Group. So go over and check out some news over there. We've got another podcast coming up, but you can check out our guest, Stephen Ignoramus, over there. We got that fixed finally, so you're showing up on there again.
Oh.
I caught that the other day. I'm like, why is that not showing up? And I told Jake, and he got the internet lady on it, and we're fixed on there. So you can check Steven out over there. You can check the Generational Gap out over there. We have just added the R-rated conservative to our ranks, so you can check his stuff out over there. And we've got a new podcast coming up. Check that out as well. And possibly a new blog series coming up as well, kind of a 12 Rules for Life thing, but from a video game aspect. So make sure you check in the coming weeks for some new stuff that we've got going on over there. After the lengthy introduction, it is always time to find out about the best part of Ed's World. So, Stephen, I've known you for a long time. Some of my guests have known you for a long time, but not everybody has. But tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I mean, I'm a live streamer, and I do that all the time now. It's kind of taken over my life within the last, 7 or 8 months or whatever. So like I said earlier, we kind of covered my daily show, but I also do some interviews. I do some live music. I'm a professional musician and music teacher by trade. So basically what my channel is all things Stephen Ignoramus. And I might, and if it gets more popular, I might split it up into multiple channels to keep the news, politics, and music separate.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, I just love making fun of stuff. I love making music. I like entertaining people. And I'm really into philosophy, and I'm not scared by having many different takes, propagating the live chat and stuff like that. So I'm a conspiracy guy. I'm a truth guy. I'm a talking shit guy. And I don't know. That's about it. I just make music. And I live in Washington, D.C., and D.C. has changed so much in just a week. And it's going to continue. It's like the place is shutting down right now. So I'm going through my own kind of professional improvising and kind of moving my business online right now. But that's kind of me in a nutshell. I try to not take too many things too seriously, but the things I take seriously, I take very seriously. So, yeah, I don't know.
How is it in that hive of scum and villainy that you have over there?
Well, it's scummy and it's villainy, but it's, people are just all, I haven't seen too much panic. Now, I think the phrase, the word panic has been overused a lot. Like, I think buying 5 to 6 months worth of supplies and protecting your family is not panicking. Like, panicking is something you do. If I'm like, if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do it. Like, that's panicking. But people are, not freaking out, but there is a little bit of anxiety. But, I don't get downtown too much, but the city is shutting down. No school for at least 2 or 3 weeks. Kids are adjusting, and I don't know. It's probably the same situation in most cities,
What's more villainous, Washington, D.C. or Mos Eisley Cantina?
I would have to. You got to go with DC. Gotta go because there's probably like 50 or 60 different of those type of cantinas downtown. So, you get the edge.
Well, and you do also have Jabba's cousin Jerry Nadler over on your end too.
That's right. I got to start wearing my pants like that. In fact, next time I'm on, I'll hike them up to here, and the ladies will be happy, be pleased.
Well, I know you've touched on the fact that you do have the channel there, but I know that I kind of helped you, and John from Generational Gap helped you get into the point where you're at right now, and then you took off beyond the both of us here. But how did you decide that it was time to get into live streaming and alternative media?
Well, I mean, I started as a fan. I started as I was obsessed. I'm still obsessed with listening to content, but I just don't do as much. And I listen to everything on 2 times speed now, so I kind of consume the same amount of content as before, but just very fast. Everyone sounds like Ben Shapiro. But I imagine. I wonder what Ben's like on 2 times speed. Anyway,
I can answer that because that's how I listen to him.
That's you. Yeah, that's crazy, guys. Buy my gold. My wife's a doctor. Buy some sheets. But yeah, I mean, I started as a fan, and I flirted with the idea of starting a podcast about 2 or 3 years ago with a friend. It didn't really work out, but basically, I'm just really fascinated with current events and philosophy and talking about this stuff. And I used to hang in a lot more chat rooms, and about a year and 3 months ago, I just got the technology right, and I started doing it. And the first to me 50 episodes they sucked, and now I'm about to be on episode 300. I'm gotten a little bit better at it. But just as a fan, and I'm just into talking about this stuff. A lot of people get into this field to try to like solve a problem or something like that. I didn't. I just enjoy it. I enjoy making fun of stuff, and if I can solve some problems, great. But I just like the idea of discussion. And community is lacking in this modern culture, so that's part of it too. And that's definitely what it's become with my shows, my live chat. We've become pretty tight. So just as a fan and interest in politics and philosophy.
Well, thanks for that. We're going to check in with a live chat here to see what we've got going on. Looks like we've got some really good stuff going on here. So we'll check that, and we will check the live chat between topics. So if you have any questions for either me or Steven, make sure you get them in here. Steven Ignoramus is in here. Nephilim Ninja is in here. Says it's party time. He said that I'm a real Ignoramus, which, given the fact I started with no microphone, I cannot argue that. Fact check true.
Fact check true.
R-rated conservatives here. Good evening, Patriots. Welcome on in here. Two of his favorite creators, so thank you for that. Tulsi is only popular because she looks great in stretch pants. Fact check true.
It hides her bulge.
Valerie's here. Hello. Welcome in. Let's see. Andrew J. That's a new name over here. Welcome on in. Ilhana's a hottie if you've got that marry your little sister fetish. Damn Japanese. Reflections of Liberty. What's up, gentlemen? Be prepared, discerning, and alert, but always mock the fear and panic. Reflections of Liberty here. What's up, Andrew? Sergeant Peterson. Welcome on in. Reflections of Liberty. I already read that one. Midget B is here. Welcome on in, Midget B. Midget B had an interesting article. He put it up in my Discord server. He put it in Generational Gap as well. I'm
covering it tomorrow.
Yeah. What's that?
I'm covering it tomorrow. I found a couple other articles reporting on it, so it's one of my themes tomorrow.
So you've got some NewsGuard stuff for that?
Yeah, well, it's not. It's one from Blacklisted News. Let me go over to it. Oh man, I have so many tabs. Oh my god.
That would kill my laptop if I was in the same situation.
Yeah, shout out to Robert from the Generational Gap for showing me one tab, which is a plugin. You can just consolidate it all. Yeah, so I have Naked Security, a blog on it, a few thoughts on cryptographic engineering, and the original. The blog post is the original one, and a sneaky attempt to end encryption is worming its way through Congress right now, and I'm gonna try to find a couple other ones. But yeah, tomorrow, midget.
Yeah, I'll probably do it on Contemporary either tomorrow or Wednesday as well. I want to make sure that I get some green check stuff in there. But let's get on to coronavirus here because, I mean, you obviously didn't do enough of it just a few minutes ago. So I want to go on a bit of a different angle from where you were going on your show over here. So the first thing I want to talk about is the stock panic. Now, I've got some images up here of where the stocks look like over today and over the last week. So let's start out with what we saw today. Let's see. There we go. So this was today where we started out really, really low. In fact, there was a massive sell-off that we had going on this morning. They actually had to hit the circuit breakers again this morning to keep it from completely tanking. And then we're hovering right over 20,000. So a lot of what we saw over the Trump administration is officially gone at this point, which is a bit depressing because we had some really good stuff that came off of here. But this is coming off of what last week looked like, which was almost a roller coaster at this point here. As you can see, on the 11th, we started out at a record high, which was still holds one of the all-time records at this point, and we've gone back almost down to 20,000. But towards the end of Friday, after the emergency declaration was issued, we did have a little bit of a spike, and it almost looked like it was going to come back, and then off we go again. So what did you see on this, and what are your thoughts on why?
I mean, well, before we get to why, the thing to me that's way more important than even why is just the level of control that governments have over financial systems right now. I mean, and now I know that the stocks is not the government, but there's a lot of government like regulations and these circuit breakers. I mean, I don't know. it's kind of like, so you're saying this whole time you could have just stopped a crash the whole time. And when Trump gave that first speech on last Wednesday night, it was just like, man, it was just a reminder of how on lock the government's had this shit. And I did a segment on my show the next day, like asking, are we in a fascist government? And it's not the same thing as fascism, but it is a level of government intervention in domestic economy that I'm just like, man, I'm just like in awe of how fast they can just lock it all down and divert fake ass money printed from nowhere different ways and stuff. The why is because of Corona. It's also because of this oil thing that we're gonna talk about later. And the economy, I mean, it literally is propped up on trust. And so when trust takes a dive, that's going to take a dive. So the economy is incredibly complex. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it's only because of those two reasons, but inside of those two reasons are millions of reasons. And it's just this market thing that, it's not a free market, but it is a complex system. But the two biggest players are the coronavirus and the oil war that you mentioned. No one's really talking about. But it just seems like this financial thing is not. I'm trying to think of the right word for it. It's not fake. It is a little fake, but it's just so controlled. If it wants to be, the government can just go bam, and they're putting liquidity in the market. They're bailing people out. They're providing loans. And who's going to pay back these loans? At this point, I've been saying it for a while. It's our kids and our grandkids. It's not going to be paid back. None of this is getting paid back in our lifetime. So it's just that was the thing that I'm not a big fear guy, but that's the thing that spooked me the most is that first speech where Trump's like, yo, the finances are on lock. And they're like, you're right, sir. I bow down to thee.
Well, that's one of the things too. And I've been hearing it since all of this started, and pretty much since Trump took over, anytime we saw a collapse or just a little bit of a correction somewhere, it was because something uncertain was going on. Markets do not like uncertainty. They absolutely do not. And every time you see something that's even remotely uncertain, you do see that little red line start to drop a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big finance guy. Like, I don't know all the, like, how to make sense of all the numbers and all the terms and stuff like that. But I can kind of read a chart. It's just like, and I don't place as much stock in the stock market as other economic things. There's other things I pay attention to more. That's why I've never thought the economy was doing that great in the first place. I mean, to me, it's mostly about like the value of the dollar. That's the biggest one. It's been tanking since the Fed 100 years ago.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because it's no longer tied to the price of gold anymore.
Especially since the 70s, correct. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we could flood the market with gold right now and it wouldn't do anything for inflation or anything else.
Yeah.
Whereas if we saw a mine shaft filled with gold right now, everybody would be rich.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I'm sorry, 100 years ago, if we found a mine shaft filled with gold, everybody would be rich beyond their wildest dreams.
And you got that thing with FDR. I mean, FDR back in the day, basically, I don't know what the right word is, but he basically nationalized gold and said that you couldn't have gold anymore. I don't know how long it lasted for. And I don't know all the, like, it's kind of one of the things that came up a lot today with these bans is what are the actual legal ramifications of all this stuff? And I'm kind of tying it to this FDR thing because I don't know what the punishment was back in the day for having gold, but that's so scary that the government can just do that. Just anything, like, it's funny, I said it on my stream today that I'm a nationalist, but I'm a nationalist that doesn't like nationalization. When someone starts talking nationalizing industries, I'm like, I'm out, dude. I'm out.
Well, no, you're talking nationalism as an opposition to globalism, an American first mindset. But we can have an independent market inside of our nation as long as we put our nation first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm a free market guy when it comes to domestic stuff, but I'm not a free market. I'm not a global free market guy. That's insane and retarded.
Which that is one of the things that I do stand against the Libertarian Party with. I know you are a
me
card-carrying
too,
Libertarian member, but I am not. But on the other side of that, I can't get behind their border policy.
Oh, it's their border policy and their global free trade policy, and I've been saying so. It's $25 a year to join the LP, and I've been saying lately that 26 is when you start to have it not be worth it anymore. It's like only because it's like $25.75. Then we start talking. I'm joining a different party.
I was talking, Wyatt over there on Freedom Scoop was talking about the fact that he's got a government, or what is it? He's got a government class that he's taken where they're urging him to create a political party. And I'm pushing him. I say, hey, let's make a states' rights party. That would be the
Yeah.
kind of party, because that's the other thing that I don't like about libertarian is it is kind of one size fits all, like socialism is, but it's one size fits all of anarchy. Whereas I think if we did states' rights, then you could move to a state that wasn't as libertarian.
Yeah, you could just that's the beauty of it. So I'm like a small government nationalist where you can have. I mean, I've gotten pushback from some people like libertarians and stuff that say that I don't know. I didn't get pushback. I went through a Reason article on the show, and it was talking about that nationalism has to equal a big national government. And I don't agree. I think that a good national government would be kicking the national government to smaller localities, which is the intent of the Constitution in the first place.
Well, I mean, for the most part, and this is part of what got Trump in trouble at the beginning of his term, was the fact that he said he was a nationalist too. And I mean, when most people think of nationalists, especially when somebody from GOP says it, they kind of associate with a certain workers' party. Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, of course. A card-carrying member. That one's worth the $26.
Oh, disavow.
I'll be goose stepping my way to the ballot box.
Has anybody seen Seawall lately? He'll teach you.
But yeah, I mean, we don't have to get too much into it or whatever. But I mean, that whole thing of, that the Nazis were explicitly right wing is not it's not entirely accurate. I'm not saying they were explicitly left wing like a lot of people on the right do say, but they were socialists. They were socialists.
Well,
so
European right wing versus American right wing are two different things completely.
Yes.
And European right wing versus left wing is globalization versus nationalism. Whereas over here, it's more of a constitutionalism versus progressivism almost. It's getting to the point of.
That's a good point, man. I never thought about from the constitutionalism versus progressive. That's interesting, and we definitely have our own globalist versus nationalist divide over here. But it's not a right left thing because there's globalists and nationalists on both sides.
Oh, absolutely are.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with the LP. And I know that their big thing with the free trade is, well, just make all trade free rather, and that'll all sort itself out. And, borders are a violation of the non-aggression principle. And those are the only two things I can't get behind that party for.
It's kind of interesting because I will admit there is a contradiction there in the way that we think about it, in that basically what a libertarian would argue, and I kind of agree, that government in general is a violation of the non-aggression principle. But it's kind of like, and so if a border is part of the government, then that would be kind of a good argument. But it's kind of like a government controlling its own people and taxing people and threatening them with force if they don't comply is kind of a violation of it. But like letting everyone else in is actually forcing more people to be under the thumb of the government. Mm-hmm. So it's really weird. It's not a contradiction. Maybe it is, but it's kind of like a little dissonance there that I have to square in my own brain. But either way, I'm a borders guy.
Well, we're going to go back to the markets here for a second here, now that we've gone off that tangent completely here.
Pew!
This is Odds of World. Tangents are plenty. So the first market drop came after the announcement that Trump made on Wednesday saying that we were going to shut down travel to Europe. Let's see what that sounded like.
Today, the World Health Organization officially announced that this is a global pandemic. We have been in frequent contact with our allies, and we are marshaling the full power of the federal government and the private sector to protect the American people. This is the most aggressive and comprehensive effort to confront a foreign virus in modern history. I am confident that by counting and continuing to take these tough measures, we will significantly reduce the threat to our citizens, and we will ultimately and expeditiously defeat this virus. After consulting with our top government health professionals, I have decided to take several strong but necessary actions to protect the health and well-being of all Americans. To keep new cases from entering our shores, we will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days. The new rules will go into effect Friday at midnight. These restrictions will be adjusted subject to conditions on the ground. There will be exemptions for Americans who have undergone appropriate screenings, and these prohibitions will not only apply to the tremendous amount of trade and cargo, but various other things as we get approval. Anything coming from Europe to the United States is what we are discussing. These restrictions will also not apply to the United Kingdom. At the same time, we are monitoring the situation in China and the South Korea, and as their situation improves, we will reevaluate the restrictions and warnings that are currently in place for a possible early opening.
So this speech that he gave is, I'm going to say, a part of the reason they had to pull the circuit breaker on the other side, because nobody knew what the fuck was going on at that point. And like I said, the markets do not like uncertainty. And that's all that we got. And he's been clarifying that ever since the speech was over. He's been doing nothing but getting on Twitter and giving press conferences and trying to clarify what the speech meant. So at the point right now, we are getting trade from Europe, which I think is another big reason that they dropped off the stock market for it. And now the UK is included with the ban. So,
yeah, I mean, Reflections on Liberty says it best. The scariest thing to hear is we are utilizing the full power of the national government.
I can see that.
Yeah, and so just to clarify on this circuit breaker thing, it's an automated thing. So they don't. It's not there's 3 levels to it, and so it's based on the percentage of drop and also the time at which the big drop happens.
Right.
But to be honest, I didn't see the big deal about the things that he needed to clarify and the things that he was inaccurate on. I didn't see them as such a big deal. I mean, you can read the executive order.
Right.
So it's like the speech is not the policy. The order is the policy. And if people don't read, then it's just going to be Democrats pounce. And they did and stuff, and rhinos and whoever. But I just didn't, even if he got some stuff wrong in the order, they weren't that big of a deal. Maybe in terms of fear. But people need to stop being so freaking afraid of stuff, man. That's how I kind of feel about it.
Well, the fear has been what's driving the biggest news story on the coronavirus for the last week. And that is not the number of people that have died. That's not the speech in the European trade. It's not what's going on overseas or Italy on lockdown. It is the fact that it is next to impossible right now in the United States to buy a roll of fucking toilet paper.
Yes, the most important number in this whole thing is the number 2. It's the most important one. It's crazy, man. I mean, like it's but what's interesting about it, it's kind of like the third product that has been in the spotlight. First it was the masks, then it was the hand sanitizer / wipes, and now it's the TP, and it's gone like beyond viral. It's gone like bacterial. It's gone fungal.
Well, and that's the thing too, and I didn't honestly believe that it was going to hit my little town. I live in a small town in southern Wisconsin, so I'm like the opposite of the den of scum and villainy of Washington, D.C. There's like 3,000 people in this town, and we have enough people to have a grocery store here. And I went down there the day that this all went through. I went down there to go and check just because I thought it was entertaining. People were showing the pictures of the Walmart with the toilet paper aisle done, and everybody limiting the amount of toilet paper you can buy. And I'm like, you know what? The Piggly Wiggly is going to be fine. They're not gonna have a run on anything. Nope. They still had it, but they had about 7 cartons of it. And that was it.
Wow.
About 12 individual rolls and about 7 multi-packs.
An interesting angle on this whole, an interesting thing to talk about with this whole thing is just the supply lines in general. But I've watched 3 or 4 different shows now that make the point, and I agree with it, where they're only really talking about one segment of the supply line. That's the warehouse, not the warehouse. That's the grocery stores to the consumers. But I've heard good things about every every part of the supply line, the supply chains before that. Like I have it said production's fine. It said that the warehouses are still full. And someone in the chat earlier said the same thing about a warehouse, and it just seems like your consumer is only thinking about the last, and now, and they should be. That's what affects their lives the most. But I've heard that everything pre grocery store is still fine. It's still
Yeah.
So
No, it absolutely is too. And I mean, I understand what the transport is because I've worked around the transport industry for almost my entire adult life. I understand what's going on there, and the trucks are running just fine. They're bringing stuff, but people went on this panic. And I know that in some of the bigger cities around here, they've gone through and taken out some of the dried foods, some of the canned foods and stuff like that. I know if I go down to the next big city south of me, which I went earlier on today, I went down there, and for the most part, all the fresh food was fine, all the frozen food was fine, but they had a sale on Kraft box mac and cheese, the 5-pack it was like $3.69 or whatever. So I'm like, cool. I'll get 5 of those. I'll have dinners for 2 weeks and not have to worry about it. Nope. Not only were all the 5-packs gone, that whole aisle was just bare.
yes,
That whole section of the aisle.
Yeah, the grocery store by me in Bethesda, Maryland. It's no TP, no pasta. What else? Yeah, no wipes. Not anything with the word Lysol in it is just done. Anything. And so like I've been into like researching gangs and drug deals my entire life. Like I've been into true crime and all that stuff and watching shows like The Wire. I'm just wondering when the re-up is. I'm wondering when the re-up is coming from the stash house. So I'm picturing like trucks going into these grocery stores and just people just zombies jumping out everywhere and just like taking down the truck.
I don't know. But the weirdest thing about here, and I don't know if it's the same thing down by you, is they are, like I said, they're not doing anything fresh. They've got a fresh meat counter up in one of the aisles in the grocery store I went to today. Mm. And if they get something that it's on the day that it has to be sold before they have to throw it out, they'll cut the price to like a third of the way down. I just bought $30 worth of meat for $10.
Oh,
because nobody's buying it. They're all getting all the canned goods and dry goods and toilet paper and shit.
Can you? This is a dumb question.
What's
can
that?
Can you freeze meat, fresh meat, after you buy it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, gotcha. But you can't refreeze it after you thaw it. That's the rule,
correct.
Right?
And
okay.
if you get thawed shrimp, like out of a meat case or something, that I wouldn't refreeze because that is usually thawed for your convenience. Especially, it might be different for you because you're closer to the ocean, but here it's thawed for your convenience. So I would not freeze that.
All right, yeah. So I got to get my meat on, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with that in mind, Trump came out and made a second speech, which I've already got that queued up here ready to go, which seemed to have inspired the market to recover on Friday. In the speech, he declared an official state of emergency, and then he went on a big Q&A from the Rose Garden, which they just tried to rake him over the coals from. I thought about getting some clips from that, but I know that we were going to be crunched on time, and I know you got a hard out on this one, but let's see what the national emergency declaration sounded like.
To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. 2 very big words. The action I am taking will open up access to up to $50 billion of very important and a large amount of money for states and territories and localities in our shared fight against this disease. In furtherance of the order, I'm urging every state to set up emergency operation centers effective immediately. You're going to be hearing from some of the largest companies and greatest retailers and medical companies in the world. They're standing right behind me and at the side of me. I'm also asking every hospital in this country to activate its emergency preparedness plan so that they can meet the needs of Americans everywhere. The hospitals are very engaged. New York and various other places are also very engaged. I just spoke with Governor Cuomo. We had a very good conversation, and we're working very strongly with many states, including New York. The emergency orders I'm issuing today will also confer broad new authority to the Secretary of Health and Human Services. The Secretary of HHS will be able to immediately waive provisions of applicable laws and regulations to give doctors, all hospitals, and healthcare providers maximum flexibility to respond to the virus and care for patients.
To unleash the full power of the federal government. That's almost as scary as what he said in the first one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the vibe with that speech was a little more like confidence building or confidence inducing. But I just don't like government, and I do like Trump more than any other politician, any other national politician running. But still, it's not what we're looking for. And I don't know. It does highlight a thing with the left and the right, or the two camps or whatever, where it's like there's a certain percentage of people that are they say they hate government, but they love it when it's wielded against their enemies, or not even against their enemies, just when it's wielded in a way that makes them feel safe or whatever. And there's another camp on the other side that's the exact same way on different issues. And I'm not on board with so much of this stuff, even though I do like Trump. I'm probably going to vote for him, but this is bad. Like, that's why I feel okay about decently okay about my intellectual honesty, is because there's certain things that's going on are just bad, regardless of whether you like the person.
I am getting to the point where I am not sure about who I'm going to vote for in November.
Me too,
I am
man.
not going to lie.
Me too. That's why I keep saying probably. I might go Kokesh, but I usually at this point I probably will go with Kokesh or the most entertaining option. And right now Trump is that. I love this the entertainment factor is great because I run a show, but there are some things. I mean, there's just bad all around. There's so many bad options.
Do you think you could go Vermin Supreme?
No, because I actually don't find him to be as entertaining as Trump.
That boot on his head.
It's good, but it's not as good as the voices and the orange stuff and the great hair and all that good stuff. But yeah, no,
You
I
excite
think
me when you talk like that.
Yeah, nice. But yeah, I think Trump is more entertaining than Vermin Supreme, and Kokesh wants to, basically dissolve the federal government. So that'd be my pragmatic take, but he ain't gonna win. So
Right.
either way, I'm not voting for a Democrat, which means my vote is wasted in D.C. So at that point, the have fun option is, usually what I'll go with. So right now, that's why I keep saying probably Trump.
So let's talk, before we move out of this and check for the live chat again, let's talk about the closures that are going on. And I know this is affecting you directly, and it's affecting my household here directly as well.
Yep.
So my job is still open. I was actually over there today. The big sale that our grocery store included bottled water, so I picked up a pack for them because we go through it so fast. I went over there today, business as usual over there. But I know schools in Wisconsin are closed at this point. They are supposed to all be closed by Wednesday, but some of the affected areas have closed early, and they're officially closed as of today. And that affects you as well, because it's going on down there as well. Except you don't, we talked about this off mic, you don't teach in a school, though.
No, I don't. No, I teach privately. I teach privately at a studio, like a music studio. And so my students are all out of school for at least 2 to 3 weeks. A lot of my younger students are sharp, and they're just like, this is not going to be 2 or 3 weeks. I talked to a 12-year-old. He's like, there's no way. I was like, man, based. So yeah, it affects me a little bit, but I have the feeling that my work's going to be closed down within a week.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just all improvising and stuff. But the entire town is basically shutting down, other than the people where it's not. There are still people going out to the bar and stuff like that, but basically the infringing on the private property part of this is the worst part of it. And there's a lot of people in my chat, a lot of people, myself included, there's certain things that we're not going to consent to.
Right.
We didn't even consent to be governed in this way, let alone or in the way previous to this virus. And it's just gotten, so the infringement on private property for the so-called greater good without a lot of proof is so troubling.
Well, and the fact of the matter is there are a lot of politicians that are saying now that we need to go into mandatory quarantine zones and have the National Guard come and take people out to put them into the quarantine zones. And
Dude.
All I'm saying is, dude, you got a fucking warrant for that?
Dude, I mean, my main question about today's stream was, what do you mean by mandatory? Because it's like, if you're talking about force, It's like, is it voluntarily mandatory? Like, what actual repercussions is one going to face for for violating this stuff? And you know, the 99%, almost all the definition of a law is enforced by force.
Hmm.
So what are you going to do? Are you going to put guns to people's head? And like I said in my stream that that I'm not going to consent, but if you put a gun to my head, I kind of will consent. I will comply, but I don't consent. So if you have a gun to my head and you're telling me that I have to take a vaccine, that's not consent. That's called me complying. I mean, so if you take putting a bullet in my head over taking a vaccine, I guess you got me. I'm gonna have to, but that's fucked up, and that's not what civilization is. That's not what freedom is. Even though freedom is kind of bullshit anyway, it doesn't really exist. But like the implications of mandatory and force and law are this is what made me a small government guy, because you think about the implications of laws, it's always a gun. So I'm saying, what up? Like, what up, government? Are you really doing this? Like, what is the implication of your shit?
Well, I hate to say it because I know that I'll get criticized from the girlfriend and the family on this too, but if they're putting the gun to my head and telling me that I need to go into mandatory quarantine for everything, I'm going to be boogaloo fuel. I will be that martyred body that you see on the TV.
But what if they get the drop on you, man? Like, what I'm saying is, like, what if what if they literally they get the surprise drop on you and you can't go boogaloo? I'm talking about in your boxer shorts, 4 a.m, and you don't have access to your weapon. What do? You fist fight them, or do you go?
As small as this town is?
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's a good
I'm
point.
saying that the news media is going to put my body, my dead cold body, all over the news, and that's going to be what sparks it all off.
Interesting.
I'm not going to be the one that's starting a boogaloo, but the remains of my corpse will be.
You're going to be the martyr.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I just don't even know what that stuff would look like. I mean, I want to say that they won't do mass force. I want to say that, but like I just don't. Yeah, you can't, but you also just don't know what it'll look like. So that's the reason I don't want to go there. Well, the reason it's hard for my brain to go there because I have a hard time just like, what would that even look like? You know how many people there are that aren't down with this shit? It's millions. So and they deployed the National Guard to 6 states today, and they're saying 600 National Guardsmen and maybe 400 more. And now they might increase that, but that's 1,000 guard in 6 states. That's nothing. You need a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And so that's why they wield the stick of fear so much, is because if you get you can split the camps by making people afraid. So that's why it's just like fear and despair are kind of the worst enemy right now. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, they're using this for all kinds of stuff too. I know I was just down in Champaign over the summer for a wedding, and the mayor of that city, which that is a rural country city, is using this as a mandate to use an EO to give the possibility to ban all gun sales and alcohol sales. And we're not talking inner city Chicago here. This is southern Illinois.
Yeah. I mean, and so we went through a couple articles on this today, and a couple of the like the Examiner article that you put in your server. I looked at that one, and we also read her statement after people shit a brick online afterwards. And she was saying, "Don't worry, it doesn't ban these things. It gives me the power to ban these things." I'm like, what?
That's worse.
I mean, it's literally you would have to write a piece of paper up to bind them to ban them. It's like one step away from like who cares? This is horrible.
Well, then we've got the Mean Girls chick that's the governor of your former state that's won't discount the possibility of martial law. It's not the Mean Girl's name. What the hell is her name? It's not Gretchen Wiener. What is it?
You talking about the governor of Michigan, or are you talking
the governor, the governess?
Ooh, governess.
Whitmer.
Oh,
yeah,
Whitmer. I don't know her. No.
Yeah, Whitmer.
Sounds like a politician. Probably not a fan.
Well, we watched the response to the State of the Union on your show when we covered that night, and that's the first thing I said when they said this woman's going to make the response. The first thing I said is, "What is that? Isn't that the Mean Girls chick?"
I can neither confirm nor deny that I've seen that movie.
I have seen that movie. I very much enjoy that movie.
Gay.
Only for you.
Yes. Correct.
So, down the list of things that have closed over the past week, and we've covered this on Contemporary as well, schools, the NBA, the debate, which we'll talk about that in just a bit here. Uh, from what I understand, most of the government buildings, especially on the federal side, have shut down completely. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean they're mostly shut for tours and stuff. I think they're still meeting for business, but
Right.
you're not allowed. Smithsonian's down. Um, all restaurants. There's a bunch of rules that got put into place in DC today for restaurants, and actually a restaurant chain at first defied the order, and then they got in line. I don't know what happened, but they got in line fast. And
There's
it's their
something I've always wanted to ask you off topic, and I just thought of it now.
do it. Hit me.
Is you because you played Fallout 3 before?
Oh yes.
Is the Museum of Science that's portrayed in Fallout 3 is that actually the Smithsonian based on location?
I actually don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. While we talk about the next thing, I can look it up. Look up the map.
The north side of the mall, between the Capitol and the Washington Monument.
Yeah, I mean that's all Smithsonian district right here. But the Smithsonian is like 30 museums.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a whole it's a bunch of it's the Smithsonian is a foundation, and there's like 30 ones right in that area. So probably yeah. So if it's north of the mall, that's Smithsonian stomping grounds.
Okay. Also closed down for audience viewing is Full Frontal with Samantha Bee.
Oh shit.
You cannot
Gotta
get
get my
into the live
gotta get my
audience for that.
TiVo out. Yeah, gotta get my TiVo. Gotta get my DVR. Bootleg that shit. I'll be a millionaire.
So, what do you think about the fact that, I mean, some of these billion-dollar industries are closing down like this, like the NBA? It costs them probably $100,000 just to turn the lights on in one of those stadiums.
It's unreal. I mean, it's NHL too, and they're also. I think they canceled March Madness, right? Am I wrong about that?
I believe so. It's either that or they're going to be no audience on that. Because some of the stuff they've done is just no audience, but other stuff is they've completely shut it down. MLB is down, which makes me sad.
Yeah,
As
it's
an avid Red Sox fan.
canceled. Board of Governors canceled the Division One men's and women's 2020 basketball tournaments, as well as all remaining winter and spring NCAA champions. Done. That's so much money,
Yeah, that is huge. That's
That
a
is
huge
so-
amount of money.
dude. Yeah, it's so much loot. I mean, we said the NBA. I think at the low end they're talking about like 1.8 billion dollars. That seems low.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just crazy what this is doing from an economic standpoint, and I don't know. Maybe the government's right. Maybe the government and the media and like the global health elite are right on are 100% right on this one. I don't think they are. I don't think they are. Like if you look at the numbers of people affected and things like that, I'm not saying it's not affecting lives, and I'm not saying it's not affecting things like Italy and stuff, but the numbers compared to other things, other death, like auto accidents, cancer, the flu, all kinds of things. It's not like only 7,000 people have died worldwide, and or I think 8 at this point. And now again, and you kind of have to go to I don't know, disclaimer mode. Like, I'm not saying the old don't matter, except they don't. I'm just kidding. I'm not saying that, blah, 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 blah. But, you shouldn't have to disclaim so much to call this, so far not that big of a deal.
Well, in the interest of time here, you've talked about coronavirus for 3.5 hours at this point between your show and mine today. So let's check in with the live chat here, and let's do something that's possibly more sickening, but to the stomach instead of the respiratory here.
Let me throw out 3 quick stories about Corona that were interesting.
What's
you
up?
hear about the people that were stockpiling hand sanitizer? They bought 18,000 bottles, and then the Amazon and eBay took them off their websites, and then the Tennessee governor or the attorney general made them close their stores. Now they're donating all the sanitizers to other people. You hear about this one?
I didn't hear about the donation part, but I had heard about the rest of it.
Dude, when I saw that, I was like, damn, these guys are grinders. This is called being smarter. Like, what do you think the big business does every day? They seek an advantage, they corner a market, and they exploit it. And people are saying that because these are small. I mean, I call that being smart.
Right, but they don't donate to government organizations, so they're not allowed to get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, well, they didn't donate until they got caught. They were basically like, I think they were strong-armed.
That's why I'm saying they didn't give money to the local politicians, so they're not allowed to get away with it.
Oh, they didn't pay him off. Yeah. So then we have these Indian people drinking urine and taking shit baths in India, full head submerged shit baths to just because they say it cures them. You hear
I
about
don't want
that?
to live on this world anymore.
We have to all embrace Hindu nationalism so we can wipe with our proper hand and not need TP. And then the last one is this girl, this 22-year-old girl on TikTok who's licking the toilet seat on an airplane to called the Corona Challenge. Do you see that video?
No.
All right, Jagger's quitting, guys. Have a nice night. All right, that's all I got.
All right. So Mark Souza showed up right as we were signing off here. That's where we left off there. Imagine the mainstream media reporting on this bill. Let's see. Reflections, hello, SJV Citizen. Let's see, what else do we have? OK Dean is here. I'm a newbie. It's Ignoramus is doing, but I don't blame him. He's a sap.
Correct.
I don't know, a friend of yours?
Correct. All statements about me in live chats are correct.
Midget B says, Steven, the feeling when you realize your government is socialist the whole time.
Correct.
Sedevaka Bear. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce.
Sedevacantist.
I will take your word on that. Says, good afternoon from the front lines, Bay Area Shitistan. Oh, Chris Lokes used to live over there, too. We were just talking about that earlier on today.
That's funny.
At least Stephen Ignoramus can count to 6 million.
Correct. Gorillion, actually.
Gorillion. Nationalization doesn't work. Use England as an example. You guys are touching on the latest Q theory that the national emergency government shutdown, travel ban, and CEO stepping down shit is in preparation for a massive sweep by the DOJ. No, I don't have anything NewsGuard confirmed on that. Otherwise, I would.
I said go on when he said that?
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
Yeah.
I would definitely cover that if I could get some green checkmark articles on it, but...
What is that, man? What is a green check mark?
NewsGuard verified. It's the same standard that Tim Pool uses.
Oh, I got to look that up. Okay, cool.
There are a certain number of sites, and actually his side project, Subverse, is NewsGuard verified too, so... I trust him, and I trust that. Which usually, like, I'll take something like the blog post that Midget B put in my Discord server. Usually I'll take something like that, and I'll use that to extrapolate and find more NewsGuard stuff, so... I mean, it's okay to find some of the off-name stuff, but I'll usually try and find something that's certified, because otherwise you get a lot of opinion pieces and a lot of fear-mongering and fear porn, and we get enough fear porn from CNN. They live on that shit. One nation under God, not one globe under the... Okay, Dean, you don't have to censor in this, so I would love to see what you had to say on that, but yeah, there's no need to put stars in this channel. Say that shit. Say that shit proudly. Reflections liberated. The scariest thing to hear. We are utilizing the full power of the national government. I know we checked on that already. Banning Europeans is a big problem for Vegas, New York, Florida, etc. Thank you, Stuntman Bear. Valerie says, why are they running to get TP and not food? Yeah, we've had that conversation before. Stuntman Bear likes the rough stuff. It tickles and makes your bum shiny.
Fact check true.
We're not Venezuela yet. Let's see. You can freeze fresh meat. Yes, you can. We talked about that. You can make jerky too, by the way.
Yes,
Stuntman Bear says,
full-blown retard over here.
Stuntman Bear says, don't freeze potatoes, but I do freeze potatoes. So, Valerie says, someone said in a district in Illinois that the teachers told their teachers to get the report cards ready. They might not be back until August. With the National Guard deployed in that state. What's that?
Yep. Same thing over here in D.C. Everyone's thinking that, most people are thinking that there's going to be no school for the rest of the year. Crazy if true.
If it's sorted out in a couple weeks, they could just switch time off with the Easter holidays. Stuntman says in Europe it's a fine for breaking quarantine curfew. Yeah, we didn't even cover that. I'll be talking about that tomorrow morning. The fact that some jackass staffer from CNN said on Twitter, unverified, that CNN was reporting that Trump was saying there was going to be a curfew.
If everything being reported about COVID-19 is true, then I could talk about fines as a compromise.
I couldn't. Fuck that.
I could talk about it. I would disagree. I would come to the table in the form of disagreeing, But I'm saying if everything's true and it actually is a crisis, I do believe in what's called the greater good. But I just don't believe that it can. When you talk about jail, guns, and killing and force, then I get off the train. But we're operating on a lot of premises here. I'm saying if everything's true with the organizations that I trust the least in the world, so it's a long way from reality.
Reflection of Liberty says, you know how hard door to door would be in California? My town has barely enough law enforcement for the crime. Nephilim Ninja says Freedom Week 2 is canceled in Cali. Knock on effect for sponsorship deals, TV rights, etc. March Madness is canceled, according to Reflection of Liberty. Salary caps will be lower. Seawall is here in his bio-sealed half-track. Hey, we were just talking about you, Seawall. You need to teach Steven here how to goose step.
No need. No need.
Steven looks great in Hugo Boss.
Correct.
Sergeant Peter says, how much show feet?
All of it.
All of it.
All the money.
All the
$6 million.
lemons.
Yep. $6 million.
Sergeant Peterson says, curfew, am I 15? Sewell says, but Steven, I need you to run the trains. And
We'll
last
outsource
one
it.
before we come back here is Stuntman Bear says, if you don't want jail or force, then you can't enforce the fines.
Great point. Yep. So I probably will take back what I just said.
Right. We will circle back here after we talk about what's making me sick to my stomach here. So,
By the way, man, I can be out at 9:15 or 9:20, so we can. I don't have a hard out anymore.
okay.
Okay.
So, let's talk about. Let's switch this around here a little bit first. What I've got in the itinerary. Let's talk about Super Tuesday 2 first before we go into the debate. So, on Super Tuesday 2, Biden led in Mississippi, Michigan, even after his massive outburst that we talked about on Contemporary, and Missouri. He hit all of those three in a landslide. Washington State was too close to call. They just called that the other day for Bernie.
Wow. Yeah, it's not looking good
Yeah.
for Byrne. No.
Well,
Wow.
what's not looking good for Byrne is looking good for the rest of us. You got to keep that in mind.
Yeah. Maybe.
Except for the memes, but still.
I got some hot takes on that. I would actually take. I don't know. Like I'm just all It's all like speculation because I wouldn't vote for either of them. But when I look at if you say Trump's definitely not going to be president, I think he's going to. But say we posit that.
We'll answer that question at the end. So.
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to be a Democrat, I do have a little collapsitarian growing inside of me, a little bit of an accelerationist. So sometimes do want the I do sometimes want just to bring it, just bring the collapse. That's all I'm saying. Disavow.
What do you think about the fact that Biden took these states in such a landslide? Mississippi was obvious because he, for whatever reason, has the black vote locked up and on lockdown here, and I think Missouri was the same thing. But Michigan was such a surprise, especially given the fact, I know early voting helped with this, but given the fact that he essentially told a union worker, which should be his base in Michigan, that he was full of shit to his face and that he wanted to slap him in his face while they were voting in that state, and it got covered live, and he still walked away with Michigan. What do you think about that?
I mean, it was hilarious. I mean, it's freaking viral, dude. And like, I want an AR-14 now. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, I mean, that was really bad for Joe. And I mean, the thing is, okay, this is the thing. This might be an unpopular take. Now, I don't like Joe Biden. I think he's senile. I think that he's like, I like Bernie a little bit more because Biden is more establishment. So I would take that like a little bit more on its face. But Joe does have more alpha in him than Bernie. Now, I know that he's not really like an out, but he's just like shushed his handler. He's got his finger up in this guy's face. And like the 2 debates ago, there was that moment where he was just like, he's like, they all went over and I'm going to talk. I'm like, yo, like alpha, dude. I'm like, yo. So there's a certain amount of like, I don't know, dementia driven respect that I have for Joe Biden, you know, but it just went totally viral. And what's interesting about it is that Joe Biden is like the union guy. You know, his whole life has been like he's always been like a blue union guy, and this is a union worker right in front of his face, and just the optics were horrible. You know, it's horrible.
The interesting thing to me on this whole thing was the Washington thing, to be completely honest. Like, Michigan obviously surprised me given that fact, but Washington. Now, given what we know about Washington and the left coast in general, the fact that Bernie should have taken Washington walking away. Like, 80% of the vote, maybe 75% of the vote, but I mean, they stayed within a percentage point of each other the whole night, and even in after the late counting as well. I think they were within a percentage point of each other when they finally called it for Bernie, once they finally got in enough to call it. Which, that just tells me that Bernie's toast at this point. Because if he can't take a progressive stronghold like Washington walking away, and keep in mind the fact that there was enough early voting going on in Washington as well that Elizabeth Warren managed to get 7.8% of the electorate on top of that, even though she had already dropped out.
Wow.
And most of the Bernie bros, of course, would come up and say, well, those votes were going to go to Bernie, so he won it. He really won it anyway. And I don't see that. I don't think you can get T. Moore out to vote for Bernie because I think you called me a liar on national television.
Bro, the thing about the Bernie bros, man, it's there's only three options at this point. There's eat Democratic dicks, vote for Trump, or abstain. That's it. So it's like, have fun being a Democrat, yo.
And a lot of them aren't. They won't do it.
Yeah, they won't. And so there's a certain percentage that are going to go over to Trump. There's a certain percentage that's going to abstain, and there's a certain percentage that are going to vote for Biden. But either way, it's just not just have fun being a Democrat. I'm glad I'm not one.
Do you think there are going to be more that go over to Trump this time as a big FU to the establishment? That's a hard one to call for me. Because this is the second time they've been robbed of their revolution.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know. I see actually the biggest percentage of them abstaining. You know, and just sitting it out, joining Antifa. I'm kidding, but not. You know, there's going to be a certain percentage of them that go full anarcho-communist. You know, full Veritas video. And I have my questions about how many Bernie supporters are like that guy that they caught on the camera. I don't think it's definitely not most. You know.
Oh, I can't wait for the DNC.
Yeah, I'm going to come.
Yeah, we've been discussing that off mic.
But we're going to do that, man. Well, if there's not like a domestic, travel ban, we have to you can't leave your house or you're dead, kid. I don't know. But I'm planning on coming, man.
Dude, if there's a domestic travel ban, I'm putting a shotgun in the pickup and I'm coming down and getting your ass.
Oh, yeah. Dude, Seawall just said a percentage of them will vote Perot. Amazing. Correct. But yeah, DNC for sure. I'm thinking about going to the RNC too because it's in Charlotte, relatively close, and that's in August. So I think I might do both.
Well, yeah, we had talked about I could possibly run down there and do that with you as well.
Yeah, you tight.
But I want to see if they actually burn that city down. I really do.
Milwaukee will burn.
That's what Jurek said.
I doubt it.
So going into Second Super Tuesday, going back onto that there. Two surprising endorsements came out. Cory Booker came out because he's pretty much just a Democratic tool at this point, instead of just a tool like he normally is.
Yeah, more of a tool than a Democrat.
But the surprising one, of course, is he opposed busing. Kamala Harris came out and said, we need to get back behind Joe Biden.
Get in line. Yeah, just fall in line, everyone, including Bernie. You know what I mean? Yeah. Including, like, Bernie's getting in line, too. Dude's a cuck. But yeah, we watched that Kamala Harris statement on Twitter on my show, and it was just like, this lady is such a freaking liar.
I know.
It's not like there's one thing identifying the lie. I mean, everyone says things from time to time that aren't true or whatever, but you just look at her face. She is such a liar. I've known so many women like that. And it's just like that. It's all fake, man. It's all fake. This whole first of all, who backs mandatory busing? Like, that's crazy, man. And she, like government like mandated busing, and I like Joe for not backing that. But that was one of the biggest moments of the early debates. It was just so fake.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This was an attempt to put an authoritarian cop on top, and I know they're talking about Biden Harris as the ticket.
Ugh. Oh, that's so gross. I'm not trying to deal with that. I mean, the idea, see, the thing is like almost all of the candidates on the Democrat, the ones that have dropped out too, have a certain comedic element to them other than Kamala Harris. She's the only one that isn't funny at all. It's just, it's just everything sucks about that.
Dude, the woman scares the hell out of me because she is obsessed with putting people in jail that oppose her.
She's an evil woman. Yeah. She's like the picture of female evil.
Yeah, but the evil woman without the guitar solo at the end. So it's not fun.
Evil.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that came up, of course, and I want to touch on something Reflections just said here. Cory Booker came out of the closet. It's about time, so brave. No, Cory Booker is still in the closet, but interestingly enough, he had to parade around Rosario Dawson for his entire campaign saying that she was his girlfriend, and then all of a sudden she came out of the closet. And I laughed my ass off.
Dude, she did, but the thing is she didn't come out of the closet. It was like not cryptic, but it was like gay fence sitting, and of course, so you have to sit on the post in that situation. I think the quote is she joined the LGBTQ community. Mm-hmm. She didn't say whether she was like, she didn't say what she was. You know, hopefully it's one of the T's.
Wait, are you saying that she is the Tim Pool of the LGBT?
Yeah, it's complicated. Yes. That was the article said. She joined the LGBT community, so she bi. I don't know, man. Whole thing confuses me so much.
So before we get on to the Sunday debate, because this actually happened before, I want to talk about something else that happened in Team Sanders. This was towards the end of the week. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, noted squad member and New York 14 representative, has decided after she spent most of her time being the surrogate for the Bernie Sanders campaign that she can no longer be associated with Bernie Sanders because he isn't far left enough.
Wow. I mean, I don't know. It's just I'm not a left-right spectrum is completely fake guy. I mean, there's definitely things that are more important. There's probably 10 or more things that are more relevant and important and truthful than the left-right spectrum. And we need to have a national conversation on what right and left is, guys. We need to have a national conversation about it. But I don't know. What is left? What is right? I mean, but if there is a left and a right, he's far left. But that's just insane talk. Mm-hmm. I hope she loses. That'd be awesome if AOC lost.
I hope they redistrict her, because I think that would be the ultimate humiliation. Just that much of a rejection from the state of New York that they don't even want to take the chance that she gets reelected. Just get rid of the district. I hope that happens.
But she plays well. She plays well with some of the younger folk. You know, so some people like her. I just don't. We have to stop this thing of where a person is elected to represent a district and a people, and all they have to say is about national shit. Mm-hmm. You know, that's not your job. And you got freedom of speech. You can say what you want. But it's just, who are you representing? You can tell she wants national power.
Right.
She must be stopped, J. Edgar, at all costs.
Well, not at all costs, because I'd have to disavow that, but some costs.
All costs but one. You just can't marry. You can't speak to her. Yeah. That's the one. The one thing you're not allowed to do is marry her. That's it.
So let's talk about the Sunday debate. Did you see any of the? I actually sat down and watched the whole thing. I dropped out of your stream for this, but have you seen any clips or anything that came up out of this?
I saw one clip where they talked about Biden basically guaranteed he would name a female as a running mate, and Bernie said it was something like it was a good idea, like it's like I'll highly consider it. But no, I didn't see anything other than that. Oh, I saw them touch elbows. Yeah. I saw that little clip, but no, I didn't watch any of it other than that.
So they spent the first, I want to say 35 minutes trying to give Bernie Sanders his platform to try and explain Medicare for all, and he failed miserably off of this. But I mean, it was just one toxic thing after another. There was no substance that came out of this. Pretty much what I saw come out of this is if you're willing to take the old guard Democrats, Joe Biden won. Otherwise, nobody won on this one. And one of the big things that came out, of course, was one of the big questions that said, what do you do about the fact that there aren't going to be enough beds if you're under Medicare for all? Because that's one of the things we're going with right now is the fact that we can't get the hospital beds. But on top of that as well, I mean, under a Medicare for all system, there's hardly an incentive to get people to go into the medical field as much as there is in a capitalist system where they know that they're going to make bank out of it. So what do you think about that idea?
The beds angle or the Medicare for all angle?
Well, the beds under Medicare for all.
Well, I mean, I don't support Medicare for all. I don't support. Yeah, I don't. I mean, the thing I don't support is calling things free. That's the main issue I have with it. It's like a freedom issue. It's a property rights issue, and it's frankly, an extension of slavery issue. Where
Right.
if you're entitled to someone else's property and time, that's flirting with slavery, and we already are. If you're taxing above 50%, which we're not doing everywhere. But if you're taxing, like, at what point does something become outright slavery? I already believe that taxation is theft, or at least it's coercive extortion, which basically is theft. So I don't back Medicare for all. I back the free market on that one. But the beds thing is just an extension of how far are you willing to go to do the right thing for the collective good. Massive air quotes. So if it's not the beds, it's the smocks that the nurses wear. It's the bricks in the building. It's the fuel that powers everything. There's no end to it. And
It's
so
the doctors and nurses themselves.
it's so many. It's the time. It's the labor. It's every single part. So if you're just saying medicine, it just makes no sense, and it's just retarded. And you're trying to pay for it with fake ass money anyway. So you're calling something free that's not. You're calling things that are care that aren't. I mean, there's so many things under care that have nothing to do with medicine. It's like the infrastructure and all that stuff, like we just said. So I just think it's really dumb. There's like no end to the now. And also, what if you do enact Medicare for all, but it doesn't make the problem much better? I doubt that these people are going to become free market people. They're going to become double downers. They're going to be like, okay, so we did Medicare for all. Now we need more. There's no limit to human desires. There's no limit. And there is a limit to good services, time, and the economy. There are finite resources. So squaring the two is the reason I just don't back any of that shit.
Well, what are the most interesting things that I thought came out of this whole disaster? And I talked about it on Contemporary this morning because, for the most part, the whole thing was just Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders screaming at each other their pet projects. But they got into the idea of campaign finance for a while. And Bernie Sanders came up. They were talking about super PACs left and right and all the billionaires that support Joe Biden. And Bernie Sanders was railing on him. And Biden came back and said, well, what do you got to say about your 9 super PACs? There are 9 super PACs that support him. And I don't know if this was scripted or whatnot, but Bernie was ready for that. And he came out and he yelled, well, if I have 9 super PACs, can you list them? And with no answer, Biden came out and said, well, just forget this, man.
Can he list 9 things of any type?
It was
I wonder if he can name 9 things.
Interesting idea, though.
Yeah.
It was an interesting strategy because I'm sure that top trend on Google for the day was what the 9 super PACs were. And while I was looking up for this, I found that there were no super PACs that support Bernie. But I found 7 PACs that, because he's supposed to be all grassroots. He's supposed to be only getting donations from the common man. He's supposed to be waving off anything that he's getting from a political action committee. I found a Reddit post and I verified it with NewsGuard. He has 7 political action committees that are supporting him that nobody would have known about if not for that. I don't have the Reddit post in front of me. I know nurses and Action Committee for the Revolution were both on the list, but he's got big money coming into him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much of a take on I don't have much of a take on the whole campaign finance thing. I fluctuate a lot. I don't think like speech is the same thing money and speech are the exact same thing, but they are linked a little bit. There's a little bit of like dollars and freedom and speech and freedom are a little linked. I don't want unlimited money in policy. I don't know how to square the whole thing. I think, but so people talk about campaign finance as like this huge problem. I kind of don't. I think money in government is a bigger problem than money in campaigns. Like the amount of money that we're printing and pumping into the government, and the amount that we're getting for that is criminal in government. So I don't really care that much about the campaign thing. I mean, we just kind of proved that money is not all it takes. Bloomberg just dropped out, you know? So if money was what mattered the most, Bloomberg would have done better. So I just don't view money in politics to be as big of a problem as money in government, even though I don't know. I don't know what I would do about Citizens United, but it certainly doesn't look good if you're taking a bunch of money if you're Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, and I know that's like I say, he's supposed to be the guy that's only taking the $3 from the college student that has $6 left, or however the Elizabeth Warren story came. That was what he was supposed to be out of this, and that just the fact that that's out there and on Reddit just blew that wide open, and the fact that people started Googling off of this, I think that was the biggest takeaway for the night. And if you had to pick a Democrat that won last night, it was Bernie, or Biden rather.
Okay.
If you had to pick one that won last night, it was definitely Biden.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is just like the money in politics angle is enjoyable to me from a seeing the left eat themselves standpoint, where it's like I just don't really care that much, and I know it's a huge thing with the Democrats and the left, and it's almost like a purity test type thing. So it's enjoyable to see them go after each other or seeing the common people on Twitter going after each other for it. But I kind of just stay out of it because I don't care that much. I care about taxation way more than I care about Citizens United.
So, before we get into the three questions out of this, I want to ask you what you think is coming up for tomorrow's election. Now, Louisiana already said that they're going to delay, and I know Ohio is still talking about doing a delay. I don't know if they're going to do this or not.
I believe so. I believe they're delaying.
We are in 4 delegate-heavy states right now, and I don't think that this is going to go well for Bernie Sanders. Honestly, if he makes it to Wednesday in the campaign without saying that he's cutting it, which we thought he was going to do last week, I would be surprised. So the states that are voting are Arizona, Florida, which is going to be just abysmal for Bernie Sanders with all the Cuban immigrants, Illinois, and Ohio. Louisiana is delaying their vote until later on. So where do you think what do you think happens tomorrow?
I don't really know. I mean, it looks like I mean, if I were speculating right now, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I think Biden's going to get the nod, and from what I think, I'm not sure. I think Ohio is slightly more centrist than, and they have a huge right wing population. So if that happens tomorrow, I bet you Biden wins Ohio. But I haven't looked at the numbers that much. I just don't trust polls at all because usually they ask like 2,000 people, you know. So. I don't really know. I mean, I would say it probably is going to favor Biden, but if Bernie did well, it'd be because of the young people.
Well, Arizona, I can't call. I can't decide how that's going to go because it's close to California. It has some California migration coming out of it, but it's also, like you said, a more centrist and even more conservative state. So I could see that going either direction. But Florida is full of old people and Cuban immigrants. Illinois is where President Obama came from. So you'll have the Obama nostalgia to go with that. I think it's going to carry Biden over. And Ohio, like you said, is center conservative for the most part. So the Democrats that are there are your union workers, your steel workers, and stuff like that are going to go heavily for Biden.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Like my take on most of this stuff is like I just enjoy the spectacle, and I'm just glad I'm not a Democrat because it's just like it's a dumpster fire. And I'm not a Republican either. But it just I'm just have fun being Democrats, guys. It's not a good call.
It is a dumpster fire indeed.
It's unreal.
So you've been on the show a few times before. You know what's coming. With only 3 people left in the race, this will be quite an easy decision because the last time you were here, there were 17 people to choose from.
Oh, my God. It's crazy, man.
So, based on the news and the statistics that you got from this past week and what we've talked about in the debates and everything else that's happened, just based on statistics, who do you think is going to be the Democrat nominee?
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. That's a pretty
Yeah.
easy call at this point.
Yeah. Can't believe it, but yeah.
So, out of the three that are still left over, if Trump had a heart attack or a stroke or something and he couldn't be the president anymore, or if and Mike Pence can't pull together a campaign at the last second here, you have to have one of these three people. It's got to be one of these three. Who's going to make you sleep the easiest at night? I know that's a foregone conclusion. Who is the lesser of three evils?
So you're talking about, you say Tulsi is the third person you're talking about?
Yeah, Tulsi's still in.
Yeah, Tulsi, Biden, Bernie. Who makes me sleep the easiest? Damn.
Lesser of
Tulsi?
three evils.
Tulsi. Because at least, okay, so here's the thing. If we base it on their campaign rhetoric and what they champion, like say all three of them are going to get done 100% of their plans, and Congress doesn't stop them, they're basically a king. I like Tulsi the most because at least she'll take care of one of the biggest issues, and her biggest issue is war. It's one of my biggest ones too. Is like I'm almost a strict non-interventionist unless we get attacked by an actual state with like a government that we can like go after. Even then, I'm not a big like invasion guy. That's fucking weird. And if you want to take over the country, invading it doesn't do it. You have to repopulate it. You have to send people there. Other than that, you're never going to take over a nation. So I'm war is one of my biggest issues. So I disagree with Tulsi Gabbard on every single one of her other issues. But those other issues, she's pretty much in lockstep with the other two. So so basically Tulsi Gabbard, maybe we'll clean up war and we'll get him on the next round. But there's a Tom Woods quote that goes something like, no matter who you vote for, you get John McCain. So I have a feeling that even if she won, it would be the war drums would be pounding because she's not anti-war on terror. Mm-hmm. That's an important thing to know about Tulsi Gabbard, is she's anti-regime change wars in her that's what she usually says, but she still backs war on terror. So Tulsi, but fucking begrudgingly.
All right. So this is for the pure entertainment value. This is no statistics or no policy prescription or campaign rhetoric. Out of the three that are still there, who do you think is going to be the most entertaining to go up against Trump in the debates? Who's going to give you the best ads? Who's just going to be the all-around funniest character? Who do you pick for the lulz?
Got to go with Joe Biden. You have to. I mean, but the thing about Joe is it's a little sad. I mean, you would actually think that Bernie would be a little bit more fun to make fun of, but he's kind of not. I mean, you got the voice, you got the millionaires and the billionaires, but just seeing those dead eyes on the screen, seeing Joe Biden's just dead eyes that aren't there while he, basically torpedoes his base with his finger wagging in their face. It's going to be perfect, especially going against Trump. I cannot wait to see Hunter Biden brought up, Burisma Holdings, all the Obama administration. And I would die happy if the prospect of Obama being gay got brought up on a debate stage. I would love it. I would love it. So that's the entertainment, Biden for sure.
All right, we are going to check in with a live chat here. We left off with Stuntman Bear and his jailer force without enforcing the fine. Nephilim Ninja has offered toilet paper to show feet.
Done.
Looks
Convince
like you
me.
took your socks off already, so.
I did. They're waiting, guys. Onlyfans.com.
Seawall says, oh, did you see the meme that I put? No, you were on air when I posted it. When that one girl in your class has a 4K webcam with 60 frames per second.
Yes, I saw that one.
It's Miranda Cosgrove. Interesting.
I disavow.
I think it's hilarious.
I disavow.
Seawall
No,
says
funny.
they've gone from Bernie Bros to burnouts. Nephilim Ninja says Trump versus Joe will be funnier, so he's on your track there. Would it matter if Bernie gets the nomination if we get emergency UBI nationalized healthcare services under Trump? That's an interesting thought, actually, because I know that's been floated. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Congress will stand in the way, but it's been floated.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, like, Reflections is on it. It's, this is big government is the problem. It doesn't matter if it's your guy or not. Trump's doing it. Yeah, I don't know if it would matter. Yeah.
Seawall says that union worker shot an ad for the NRA and got an AR-15 that has custom AR-14 engraving. He was on Ruben too. I actually listened to that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
he was
I'll
on
check
Ruben
that
Report
out.
last week.
Wow, I'll check it out.
It was a short one too, so you'll get through it really quick. Seawall says, "Will Biden go senile if he endorses, or will Biden go senile and he endorses Trump?"
Hot take.
Seawall says a percentage of them will vote Perot. We talked about that. Wouldn't be prudent.
Bro, yeah.
Reflections asked if Cory Booker came out of the closet. We talked about that.
One day. Out of the bathroom.
Booker and Gillum will probably have a blast at the Democratic conventions.
DNC 2020. Big gay meth. That's the three words that they're going to use.
Seawall says, if I'm in charge, there won't be right and left. There will only be right and deported. Disavow. Jinx, you owe me a Coke. Reflections of Liberty says, AOC plays well on Twitter. Yes, she does. Reflections of Liberty says, we're already slaves. Who's your master?
Indeed.
John came in. Are they having boomer tech issues?
Is tonight tonight's a Monday. Oh,
Yeah.
they're not. Oh, I don't know.
I don't see him in here anymore, so maybe he did, but...
F in the chat for generational gap.
We don't have enough funding. It's always the excuse when government fails. See every agency.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's just crazy double talk, double think status in there. It's like, yeah, let's, there's a fire. Let's pour gasoline on it.
Jeffy Time says, my mom just sent me a post that says that Tom Hanks was arrested for pedo stuff in Australia. I doubt it.
I looked it up. I'm not seeing anything.
I doubt it. Yamo Fago says, Biden can't name the 9 pills he has to take every day to keep his corpse standing upright.
Yep. True.
Seawall's throwing the hashtags up. US Gov should run like a corporation. The citizens are the investots. Must be investors.
Best thoughts. Invest thoughts.
Let's see what else. Nephilim Ninja's going to sleep. Have a good night, Nephilim Ninja. Let's see. A lot of Bernie Bros in Arizona, according to Sergeant Peterson. Jeffy Times says Tulsi for sure on the rhetoric. OK Dean says I vote for bourbon to sleep good at night. Okay, that's a good one. I like bourbon too, so that works well. And we've got some F's in the chat, and we will circle back for more chat after we talk about this oil war. Now, this was almost completely covered up by the mainstreams. I had actually find articles from oil investors to be able to verify this, but Russia and Saudi Arabia started a price war on oil from what I understand out of this, and it was a little confusing to read about. Russia came to the OPEC and asked for price controls so they could basically dedicate the oil line to China in the wake of coronavirus fear and hold up their economy. And Saudi Arabia gave them the middle finger and sent all the people they could out to the oil fields and started pumping like crazy and flooded the market. Which, of course, put a hit on the U.S. oil producers, which may be part of the reason that we're seeing some of what's going on. But what did you see on this so far?
I haven't seen that much. I think you know a lot more than I do. I don't exactly know what, when they say a trade war or a oil war or whatever, that just means like a back and forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they make one play, the other makes another play, and they try to either outbid each other, price cut or price increase until one of them wins the competition battle, correct?
Yes, and it looks like,
Okay.
Saudi Arabia was talking about trying to get oil under $20 a barrel, which
It's crazy.
we haven't seen since I was in high school.
Yeah. It's just, to me, I'm not, like I said earlier, I'm not a big like finances guy or like, market guy. I know a little bit, but it's just, there's global stuff popping off right now. And I know I've seen some older people say that it's always been popping off, but it's really going crazy right now. Like I said, I think the story here for me is it not being talked about in the media.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's the story. I mean, like things like this kind of happen all the time, and they don't always happen between these two nations or nations this big, but there's always competition. And there's always these wars. I don't think it should be called a war. And that's like saying it's like if I were to criticize you, and like Stephen attacks J. Edgar. It's like okay, you could say that, or you could say criticize. You could call this like a bidding conflict or just like business. But yeah, it's just the media is not talking about it, and why would they? I mean, the virus has captured the imagination of the people, and there's this weird relationship between the powers that be, the media, and the people, and it's like it's kind of what gets the most clicks will often get the most clicks, the most attention. So I think it's interesting. Oil is still king. It's one day it's going to be ones and zeros, but it's not that day yet. So that's kind of what I think.
Well, the most interesting thing about this to me is when I started going down the rabbit hole and I started reading about this last week. From what I understand out of this, Russia actually took this action because the U.S. put a fuckload of sanctions on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that was going to go straight from Russia into Germany and transport several gallons of natural gas and pretty much power the EU, which is not in the U.S. interest because we're holding the EU up right now on our natural gas. I didn't know that there were sanctions on that until last week, Monday.
Do you know when those happened?
I believe it was late in the fall, late summer, early fall.
Yeah, we covered that. Yeah, I mean, I just forgot about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we covered that. The thing with sanctions weird me out because, when we can just sanction a foreign government, we clearly are not a nation anymore. I mean, I get it. One thing if we're sanctioning, just our dollars away. I don't really even know what sanctions really are. Does it mean it means withholding dollars in business? Correct.
For the most part, it's withholding business.
Okay, it's withholding business, and does that mean that we're withholding our own business, or we're leveraging other countries' business away from it?
It's a bit of both because I know that the U.S. will try to flood markets as well to discourage other nations from doing business with the nation that's offending that they're putting sanctions onto.
Right. So, I mean, I'm anti-coercion. So if it's a thing where the other countries, well, first of all, from the nation leveraging their own sanctions against, say, like it's our right to withhold business from Russia. And quick thing about coronavirus in China that I didn't get to earlier, but it's related. Tucker Carlson, who I like on almost all takes, he's one of the best guys on TV. He's saying that China withholding medicine from us is murder. They're trying to murder our citizens. I'm like, come on, Tucker. Them acting in a way where they withhold product is not murder, dude. I mean, it doesn't affect us well, but it's not murder. And I would say the same thing about if we were to withhold our business from any country. It's like kind of our right, even if it does cause people to die. That's kind of on the country that's doing the buy-in or whatever. But
I could see it with China. I could see it with China.
Why?
Solely based, and this is solely based on the free market, because China did what Saudi Arabia is doing right now. They undersold and undercut themselves so far that the U.S. couldn't keep up. So they would have the exclusive rights over the supply chains.
That works both ways, though, because
right.
we agreed. We agreed to doing that. And why do we fall so far behind? Is because we're lazy. It's like we saw low prices, and instead of knowing that over the long term, increasing your own manufacturing, your own shit in house is going to benefit you more of the long term. So we took the ticket. We took the lollipops,
right?
Basically, So that's not on China. That's on us. And my point is it's a little bit. It's not as strong as I made it out to be. I'm just making the point that it's not freaking murder. It's not freaking murder, and it's not. It's just their right, and we screwed the pooch on that one. It's because of globalism. So that's how I kind of make sense of the whole thing. It's their right. It kind of sucks for us, and we shouldn't have done that. But after a certain point, you have to realize that there is a price so low that it's actually high.
Well, the other side of that, and I do want to go back on what you said there. Yes, we entered into all of this. We agreed to all of this, but I mean, in our society, we do still hold the person in the van responsible, even if the college girl takes the lollipop.
Can you repeat that one more time? What do you mean by that? Can you just repeat it?
I said we do hold the person in the van responsible, even if the college girl takes the lollipop.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, it's an interesting metaphor, interesting analogy. I still don't blame China for pulling products that's theirs. It's that
Yeah.
simple to me. You know what I mean? It's just their product. We fucked up. We fucked up over a 50-year period, and now it's coming to bite us in the ass. But that's neither here nor there because we're talking about China and U.S. now. But back to the Russia oil thing, it's kind of the same thing where it's I believe it's the word has been said omni-nationalism, where it's like I'm a nationalist, but I'm not a national supremacist. I'm not an American supremacist. I think that nations have the right to nation, and if it's not coercing other people or forcing other or threatening or anything, those things in the form of violence, not in the form of economic stuff, then it's kind of fair game. So I like Russia, man. Russia is super based, man. I've been liking Russia more and more over the last year.
Yeah, I've heard you say that a couple times. So,
Dude, they're based as fuck. They're straight nationalists, dude. I like it.
with this, and like you said, the big story here is that the mainstream media has completely ignored this because it's more profitable for them to peddle the fear porn, especially in the stock market, and throw it against the president. And the Nord Stream 2 pipeline sanctions do not fit the narrative that they've been trying to feed us for the last 3 years. Because Trump came out and said, nope, this doesn't fit our interests. Shut it down or we're sanctioning your ass. Which you wouldn't do if you were owned by the government.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, I mean, sanctions are kind of like a dirty word at this point. I wish they would just, it's a one word thing, which is good, but I wish they would spell it out in a sentence and they would just say, rather than sanction, they would say withholding our own business. And then then the Orange Man bad crowd would have way less of an argument because it's like, yo, we're withholding our own business. What are you guys freaking libertarians? None of them are libertarians.
No, they are not.
None of them. So it'd be a good, rather than saying sanction, just say withholding our own business. And, what's the argument at that point? It's our business.
Well, and I look at this too, and I think, and I said this right away when I first saw the gas prices starting to drop. This is going to hold our economy up. This is going to keep us from sliding into a massive, massive drop. And for the most part, I hold to that, and I think that's part of the reason we haven't dipped below 20,000 yet. Even with all the sell-offs in the circuit breakers, I think the low prices in gas have gotten people out of their house. I mean, people are buying the fuel for the heaters. They're buying the fuel for their cars. They're going out and buying stuff. And I mean, other than the fact that they're locked in the houses, the people who can travel are traveling because they can afford to. They can put the extra to it. And if this stays like this after the quarantine is over, you're going to see a lot of stock prices just soar, I think, with these fuel prices sitting the way that they are.
Did you hear about this thing in Mexico with that? How they bet the short, like this big company shorted oil or something like that, and it essentially saved the Mexican economy. You hear about this?
No.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to butcher it too much because I don't have the figures and the actual names of the organizations in front of me. But I read this story about how there was basically because of one or two different stocks or like one stock group or something like that they shorted. They basically, say, I don't know. I don't think completely it would have been completely destroyed, but basically them shorting something saved the economy. That's the extent of my knowledge. We look into it.
I will look into it, absolutely. What is gas down to by you?
I don't know, actually. I actually filled up a couple days ago, and I haven't looked at it since. I filled up when it was prep time, and I still have a full tank. So I bet it's higher than normal. I mean, we're close to a city, and it's a rich city. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll check it out tomorrow.
It is $1.85.
Wow, man. Where you are?
Yeah.
Wow, dude. That's why that's one of the things about this Champaign, Illinois thing. It talks about not being allowed to fill up gas cans or gas canisters or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what, dude? It's kind of the same thing as the 17,000 bottles of hand sanitizer. That's called being smart.
Yeah,
dude.
absolutely.
Like, so if you go out and you fill up a bunch of barrels full of gas, that's called being smart. And that's what big business does every single day.
And I've got a 33-gallon tank.
Wow, 33. Are you some kind of Mason? Some kind of 33-degree Illuminati type, dude?
No,
Hiding in
that's
plain
just what
sight.
they put in the F-150.
Oh, oh,
So yeah, I mean, I could go over and fill up, and I drive 5 miles to work every day, so I could drive around for a long time
yes, you could, sir.
for really, really cheap.
Yeah. Can't believe that it's illegal, or not. It's illegal that it can become illegal to stockpile gasoline. Seems like a no-brainer.
I mean, most of your environmentalists will go out there and say that owning a tank is or a truck with a tank as big as mine is stockpiling gas.
They're wrong.
That's not the most amount of fuel I've ever owned a vehicle that could hold. 35, I think, was the most I've been able to hold. I had an old F-150 when they still had the two tanks, and one was an 18 and one was a 17.
Wow, wow. I just got a Jeep. Yeah, I got my modest Jeep. I think it holds 12 gallons, 14 maybe.
Well, the old lady's Honda holds like 9 gallons.
Wow. Yeah. Gonna be sputtering out in no time.
Not on that thing.
Yeah.
That gets like 45 miles to the gallon.
I know.
It's
I
crazy.
just go all day. Correct. Yeah.
We drove to southern Illinois and back, and it barely moved the needle in the gas tank.
Wow. Legit. Wow. Yeah. Not around here. Not the city parts. You're gonna burn it up in no time.
All right, let's check back in with the live chat, see what they've got to say here. Seawall's been going nuts on this one.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do have to go after these chats or whatever. We just did 9:30, so I got to bounce pretty soon. Just to let you know.
Oh, we can't do the Ilhan thing? That's okay.
No.
I've covered it.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
All right, so
Some people did something. That's all that happened.
yeah, I'll talk about it on Contemporary tomorrow. So
Yeah. Yeah. Read these seawall chats, yo. This is good shit right here.
So Seawall says, "Fucking do it, cheap gas, woo, dude. Gas near my work is $1.80 a gallon. God bless the Lone Star State, and sanction the USA is political and economic suicide. Every currency on the planet, with a few exceptions, is backed by U.S. dollars. That is true. China uses economic practices that are basically using steroids in sports. Globalism had a good run in the 1990s to 2020. Rip, rest in pieces." Here the problems, I don't know how to say that. The products aren't theirs, they violated contracts. The Chinese agreed to produce these drugs in exchange money, which is often paid up front. Okay, so if they're under contract, that does kind of negate your argument there, which...
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I don't know anything about the actual agreements. I'm saying that independent of if you're in a voluntary agreement where, people can pull out at any time, then that's their right to. But I'm also huge on property rights and contract law, so you got me.
Combine that with the fact that these companies are partially or wholly owned by the Chinese government, and they often run at a loss or get subsidies, which is what I was talking about, which are a violation of free trade agreements. Yeah, they're underselling and they're basically torturing their employees because of it. Look, we can get some blame for eating the drug lollipop, but the Chinese guy in the van still has to face justice.
Huh. Under what court? You mean are you talking about a global court, or what do you mean, like a tort claim? Like the problem with the face justice thing is because that implies that there's a government that supersedes national governments. And I'm not big on like global government or the UN or international law or stuff like that. But if you're talking about like a tort claim, like just I don't know who's going to enforce it. That's what I mean. Because if it's not international law, it's war, or some other means.
But what about World Police, Team America?
Fuck yeah.
All right. Jeffy Time says Mexican shorting. Not surprised. Disavow.
Hey, Bessie.
Jeffy Time says Tank of the Beast. Sergeant Peterson says Illuminati confirmed. Seawall says my SUV has a 15-gallon tank, maybe 13 or 14. I like my Ford Escape. And the last chat that we're going to read out loud tonight is from Seawall. Says justice in the sense of sanctions and economic obliteration by the U.S. government. Yeah,
I'll say the same thing I said earlier. That's it's fair game as far as I'm concerned. But when you start to coerce other governments that aren't in your nation to do so, and then that would be what I kind of mean by as long as it's a conflict from one nation to one nation and everything else is voluntary, then I'm on board.
Okay. So we are going to get through the outro here and ask the last question of my guest. And while I'm doing that, for everybody over on D Live, make sure you get out there because I'm going to pop that chest. So get ready for that here. But the last question we always ask on this show is, Stephen, we talk about politics all the time. We talk about bad stuff, depressing stuff. We had a funny story at the end of this one, but we're going to skip it at this point. So everything is so dark on this field and on this setting. So we like to end the show on a positive note. So tell us about a hobby that you have that has nothing to do with work or politics. It could be an album that you picked up, an instrument that you like to play, or several hundred instruments that you like to play. Just something that helps you unwind at the end of the day when you're done working.
Interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, I have, like I said, professional musician. And I took a long time and didn't listen to that much music for fun. I would listen to it at work, but I've been listening to a lot of music lately. And I would like to recommend a band called Wolfpeck. So it's Wolf with a V, Wolfpeck, like a bird pecking. Very funky band out of Ann Arbor, Michigan that I've been listening to a lot lately. Very happy music. I've been listening to a lot of music, a lot of good time stuff like that, and also I've not to go dark. I mean, but I've been getting it more into prepping the last 6 or 7 months, and I've found it to be a really good time. I like making lists. I like being prepared for the future, and I don't do it out of a sense of fear. I do it because it's fun, and I encourage everyone to be prepared for the future and don't despair and do not fear. Just prep, and it's really fun. So checking down my list, reading some books about prepping, and it is a good time.
That's a lot of fun. You mentioned something on your show last night too while I was listening here. Can you make that announcement of something you've been learning, or is that too early for that one yet?
You know what, man? You cut off at the most important part. Can you say that again?
You mentioned on your show that you had been learning something recently. Can you announce that, or is that still under wraps?
Dude, this is like the third time you've got me with things about me that I don't remember. So you can announce it. What are you talking about?
Oh, you had said that you had learned a song when I was talking about switching up the song.
Oh, dude. Okay, so I did learn that song that you've been trying to have me play, and I can talk to you at some point about how you want me to do it. But I actually learned that song. It's easier than I thought, and it only took me 12 months. So if you want me to make a recording, I'll also upgraded my recording software, so I can I have a lot of wiggle room to do that. But yes, I did learn that song. If you want me to do it, I can make it within, say, 2 weeks. I have a lot of time off. Okay.
That would be REO Speedwagon's Roll with the Changes.
Yeah, exactly.
I figure you'd have fun with that too, because that's a really piano heavy song.
Yeah,
and the organ that's in there
it's
too.
Yeah, it's a good one. So yeah, if you want me to do that, 2-week deadline. All right.
I might even have to relearn how to play that guitar sitting behind me, so I can throw a track down there as well. I don't know how that works, but we can figure that one out.
Yeah, cool.
And thanks to everybody for coming in and checking us out in the live chat here. If you want to finish the conversation with me, you can find me over on Twitter. That is at EdsBlog Twitter with a 1 in place of the I. On YouTube or DLive down below. There are many more places you can find me. Or on Facebook, it's up above us right now. If you want to finish the conversation with my guest, tell us where they can find you.
Well, you can just look up Stephen Ignoramus on many, many different platforms. I'm on Twitter at Ignoramus Steve, Instagram Stephen_Ignoramus. But yeah, you just type in Stephen Ignoramus, Stephen with a PH, to most places where there's streaming, BitChute, YouTube, DLive, all that good stuff. And I do have a podcast called Call Me Ignorant, where I interview people and stuff like that. And every Wednesday night I do a concert from where you see me playing guitar and things like that. But you just type into the old Google thing, Stephen Ignoramus, I will show up.
And thanks everybody for coming by and checking us out live over on YouTube, DLive, Periscope, Twitch, Facebook. I got more platforms than a fucking disco in 1977. And if
well
you're
done,
just
sir.
catching up with us now and you're catching the end of it, of course, you can catch us back on demand on YouTube and on bitchute.com. Or the replays will be available on Facebook and on Twitter as well. Or you can catch us on the audio platforms as well. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. And remember, leave us that 5-star rating and a good review over on iTunes, because that helps us overcome the algorithms that the Mark of the Beast wants to impose on us. Lastly, come and check us out over on the Freedom Scoop Media Group, because we've got a lot of great content over there, and we've got a lot more to come and a lot of good things scheduled up. So we want to make more content for you guys, and any suggestions that you have as well, go ahead and find me, reach out to me, and we'll figure out how to make that content better. As we always say on this show, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. Stephen, why don't you give us a last word?
Don't fear, don't panic, don't despair. Just do what you need to do. Tell the truth. That's it.
Take care.